So welcome to our semi-annual roll-up and roadmap update. So we'll go ahead and get started now. Just before we do, typical housekeeping items. So we will be recording this and making it available on our Frankly IT Resource Center, typically within a few days. And also, please join the conversation by either utilizing the chat or some of the Q&A features available in Zoom. Julie and I will do our absolute best to handle as many questions on the fly as we can as they relate to the topics we're going through. But we'll probably be handling the bulk of them towards the end of the webinar. And just in terms of setting some time expectations, we're probably expecting this to probably be about 20-ish minutes with a Q&A towards the end. So just as we go ahead and get started, so I just wanted to reintroduce ourselves if you haven't been on any of these webinars in the past. My name is Patrick, so I'm the VP of Product Management here at Auvik. And Julie?
I'm Julie Forsythe. I am the VP of Engineering at Auvik. And really excited, as Pat always and I always are, to share with you some insights on what we've been working on and what we're planning.
Awesome. And so, as I mentioned, we expect this to probably last about 20-ish minutes, and that gives you about 20 minutes to guess what is on the bench in Julie's background. It's a bit of a game we played last time. Lots of, there's always interesting, fun things in her background. I think her and her husband collect really fun and let's call them antique. Can we call them antique?
Vintage. I think you prefer vintage. Vintage is good, yeah. Maybe just a quick walkthrough. I have this like super cool old school walkie-talkie that you might have seen on things like Stranger Things. That's a pretty fun one. But if anyone can guess what some of those other things are, then I'm pretty sure we've got some Auvik swag to give away.
For your vintage, for identifying the vintage things. I will shy away from antique. That makes me feel just as old because I recognize those things.
100%. Yeah, I'll walk through what all of these things are at the end, and we'll share some swag dollars with our attendees. Are we ready to go, Pat?
We are ready to go. So Julie, go ahead and kick things off. We'll start out by doing a bit of a roll up of what we've done.
All right. Pat and I usually switch our talk track back and forth, so we talk about both things. And my part is on the roll up this webinar, and so let's go. So first off, we made several improvements to our discovery technologies, capabilities, and overall user experience. We introduced a new discovery dashboard, and this helps our users easily review the discovery status of a site. And then on this diagram here, you can see that it makes it so much easier to understand that we're scanning the right networks, and it's so much easier to identify which devices may need additional information before Auvik can properly discover them and then show them appropriately in your web browser. And so on that note, we've also improved the add credential overall experience to make it just so much easier to add credentials when you're on a roll, when you're setting up Auvik for the first time, or when you're prompted for those things. And lastly, on some of the discovery pieces, we've added some out-of-the-box identification support for more than 50 new devices for us. And those include Arista Networks, Cisco, oh gosh, the list is very long here, D-Link, Dell, Juniper Networks, Lexmark, Motorola, the list goes on. And Pat, if people wanted the complete list, where would they find it?
We do publish them in the release notes. So that's one good method, and we're looking at actually trying to introduce some better insights and some more roll-up of these things, because you'll on the discovery side, but this is also a common theme across many of our different capabilities. So looking to
so check out the support site, our release notes, and I'm sure there'll be some details in the knowledge base as well as we get this fully rolled out. This particular area, we're really excited to make improvements to the user experience. We think it's one of the great things about Auvik is just how quickly you can deploy our product. In 30 minutes, you can actually see a number of entities online when you have run our collector. And we think that these improvements will make it even easier to onboard new sites. And we will continue to make investments in the underlying technology and with our identification capabilities to make this even more seamless process. Next up is more on the side for monitoring. We continue to add devices for monitoring support, new makes and models. Again, this will be another area where you'll need to go to the knowledge base for some additional reading because we can't possibly list all of these new devices on one slide. Fortinet switches that are managed by FortiLink. These devices aren't easily discovered to monitor via SNMP. So this is being done leveraging the on-device APIs. And so we expect to use APIs more and more in the future as part of our overall discovery capabilities. Also adding some Palo Alto support here, improving our backup support in general, but also introducing some new support for their CloudGenix line. And then many new checkpoint models and Cisco Viptela's suite of devices is also being added now to the devices that we apply support for device monitoring. And I see that James Moore, one of our friends from product marketing, is giving you some links there in our chat. Thank you so much. And I see, now I want to just dive into all the places people are. I see Texas, I see Maryland, I see some friends in the UK.
California.
I see California, Kansas, Virginia, love it. Okay, sorry, easily distracted.
Belgium,
moving on.
too.
Yeah, love it. Oh, and Philly and Belgium. Oh my goodness. I'm in Guelph, Ontario. Southern India. King Cardin, representing the North. Colorado, this is now my favorite game. 100% Waterloo. St. Louis, Alabama checking in.
Saskatoon.
Okay, I can't do it all. So that's for device monitoring support. On our next one, this is really around, sorry, let me just get the header here. We have an additional product called Syslog. And if you're using Syslog for our additional performance capabilities, we've actually introduced a new global view for Syslog configured devices. So you can see that information and that configuration of those devices really easily at a glance, but this would apply to consumers that are using our Syslog product. Additionally, when we look at a little bit more improvements on device information, we've automated the documentation of several new useful pieces of details and information that we learn about devices that are discovered. And so this information is particularly handy when it comes to a hardware's refresh, when it comes to the hardware refresh component of the overall technology map that you are all managing on your own. So to try to handle hardware related issues, talking someone through locating a particular device, specifically we're gathering EOX, end of sales, end of support, maintenance data, and providing links to the product data sheet where the information and images can be found. And so instead of kind of feeling a little bit lost or without having that information at your fingertips, we now have this directly available to you as a cross-reference resource within Auvik with the vendor's website. And so much like our device monitoring support, we continue to extend coverage of the documentation every month that you see that we do for assets that are inside your network. Pat, anything to add to that one?
No, I think you touched on it. I think this is a really exciting part. So as you mentioned, the technology roadmap component is always a very time-consuming thing, but it's one of the most strategic outputs of any IT organization. So trying to get a grip on the hardware refresh component, what needs to be updated, what needs to be refreshed, what can actually stay in the field even for another couple of years. Really critical aspects of that. So really excited to see this live.
Awesome. So then when we go to the next one, you can probably see a theme now. You can see we've been making improvements with our usability, with making it easier and more accessible to access our tool and get the information that you need. And here's another example of some investments that we were making. This one took some back-end things on the engineering side to make sure we could get a good complete view, to produce a global view of this life cycle information at more of a global level. And so you can see all of the information that's pertinent, not just at an individual site, but you can see a roll-up of all of the sites that you manage. Having a visual, I'm a very visual person, and I can only imagine having a visual of this really does prevent the number of different sites that you need to go in and look at. It's just a simple roll-up where you can see all of the information at once.
Yeah, and just to jump in, Julie, I think we have a question on this particular topic. So I just want a reminder that this section of the webinar is actually on things that are available today. So this is definitely live.
Heading to our next update, which is really around the technology partnership program. And this is where we also talk about our integrations. And it's been a busy quarter for us on the integration and partnership program side. On the incident management category, so specifically, we saw launches for integrations with PagerDuty, PagerTree, and iAlert. I want to say iAlert. These integrations result in the automatic creation of incidents from any Auvik alert. And often there's a bi-directional relationship with that sync in the conversation that's happening between those two systems, between Auvik and these assets. We also saw a number of SSO and SAML related integrations. So this is where we continued and extended our partnership with Duo, OneLogin, Okta to simplify pairing Auvik and those additional providers and those SSO providers. And lastly, we had an integration that we put out for Arcus team who identify and score risk-related issues for your discovered network devices. And so an additional integration there. And that brings us to nearly 30 incident management, SSO, asset management, dashboarding, and vulnerability integrations. It's a lot, but basically 30 integrations in a number of different categories. We continue to make our integrations a priority. We know that it's important that Auvik speak to some of the other tools that you're using in your ecosystem, and we are dedicated to making sure we continue to get connected with your favorite tools and with your most used tools.
Yeah, and just to jump into a question, I think from Aaron Haroon, I believe he was looking into, do we also link out into CVEs that apply to the affected firmware version? That's probably related to the previous slide around the automated documentation. So that's not something we do today. As Julie just alluded to or mentioned, we do have an integration with Arcus team, which does exactly that. So they actually take the inventory that we discover, they pull out all the information about it, and they relate that back to CVEs from many different sources. So whether it's vendor disclosed or properly disclosed through the as a proper CVE. And they actually relate that back to a score. So I think that's a very interesting end-to-end solution. We may look at adding some light CVE discovery in the future, but it's not at least on the roadmap right now. But if you are looking for that, Arcus team is a recent integration that does that.
Okay, are we heading into the other improvement area? I like this one because this is where we get to talk about our idea portal, which we launched earlier. I want to say this year, Pat. I want to say like early this year, we launched our idea portal that was public to our customers, right? So I don't think it's
years is one big year, but yes.
Thank you, COVID. I think it's been just about a year since we launched our idea portal, and so this is such an important asset for us. Certainly on the engineering side, I mean, it's really for Pat and his team to look through the improvements that are being suggested and voted for. But I think that you'd be surprised at how many engineers actually follow the portal because they are keenly interested in understanding how to improve the experience that's being had on our product. And so based on our idea portal, we were able to squeeze in a number of investments that were asked for that improve the overall experience of our product. So thanks for the contributions. Please continue to share your ideas in the ideal portal. We really do spend the time to understand the messaging and the problems that you're trying to solve and how we can be part of that solution. One of our favorites that we've worked on fairly recently is just some simple tweaks that allow for the dismissal of multiple alerts. And so adjusting some default views to be more useful and expanding our port monitoring to support custom ports. These are some of the things that we've touched on, but if you aren't using the ideal portal, please contribute your ideas and your suggestions. While we can't get to all of them, all of these ideas and suggestions help us better understand the profile of our customers, help us better understand the challenges that you are experiencing and how you think Auvik can help. And thanks to James, who had no idea I was going to say that, but then put the idea portal in the chat. So thanks, James. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Julie, I think like we'll talk about the idea portal and some of our top ideas shortly. But so I'm sure everyone in the on the session today is familiar with Slack. Relatively unknown company. We use Slack obsessively, and all of our idea portal, every single comment, vote, every single idea gets pumped into a Slack channel with which tons and tons of people review. Obviously, the product team has a fairly regular cadence to go through them, but engineering. If I remember right, the last one, if I remember correctly, the HTTPS custom port monitoring one. If I remember right, one of the developers was actually working on a bug fix in that particular area of the code, and an idea came in that was asking for this, and he's like, "Oh wow, I'm right here, and this is actually a really quick win. May as well do this now." So it was actually a surprise to my team, but the best type of surprise ever. All right, I think that wraps up the roll up. So I'm going to spend a bit of time going into the product roadmap, mostly focusing on two major themes that we're working on. And in addition to, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but in addition to some significant platform upgrades that are really going to allow us to take the product to the next level. All right, so let's just dive into these two major themes. The first one is around troubleshooting. I don't think this is a shock to anyone that this is a major theme of ours. This is foundational, obviously, to the Auvik experience. So with this, we ultimately aim to empower technicians to identify and resolve issues as efficiently as possible, and where possible, with even less domain expertise. So today we'll be talking through a couple of parts of the troubleshooting vision. And then also some of these parts will potentially even evolve to their own little path that'll probably become its own little theme in the future. So the first one is, we're introducing on the performance clients, the performance sites, we're introducing the ability to archive syslog data to an external Amazon S3 storage bucket. And this will allow you to retain data as long as you need. So Auvik's primary use case for Syslog has been historically focused very much on troubleshooting, but many of you need this data well beyond our retention period. And often you actually require access to the raw data itself. So this is really commonly used for things like compliance, detailed reporting, and what my team loves to call network forensics. Those pesky cases where you may have had a cybercrime incident many months ago, and you got to dig through the logs and try to piece all the information together. These are great use cases for very extended data retention. So that is something we'll be introducing very soon. I believe it's going into beta this week. And we'll likely be expanding this into things like Azure blobs and other service providers, but probably not in the immediate term, as we're starting to double down on some other investment areas. All right, I think we got some guesses coming in for Julie's background. I'll let them simmer here until the end, but excited to see some comments. All right, so next up is one that I'm really excited about. We're introducing the ability to have a new remote CLI command widget. Now, this is going to be available directly on the device dashboard, and this allows you to interact with a device's command line by issuing commands without leaving the interface. No new tabs, no new PuTTY windows, nothing. You're directly within the existing device dashboard. Now, from a tech perspective, imagine being able to run some of your favorite show commands. And I haven't played in that world as often as I used to, but I remember having a little sticky pad. This is way back in the day, but it's a little sticky pad of all my favorite show commands and to help you troubleshoot different issues. But imagine being able to run your favorite show command and seeing the results nearly instantaneously. These results are also saved for you, so for you or any other eligible techs to be able to review them at a later time as well. And this is also really useful for things like running like a show tech support and taking a look at the results now versus a previously known good date. Now, the first question I'm expecting hasn't popped up yet, but I'm expecting is around security. So we've definitely made sure to cross our I's and dot our T's in this. We have a fantastic internal security team, and they spend a lot of time working through this and making sure we're doing this absolutely the best possible way. So first off, the most basic things, we'll be introducing some permissions on it. These permissions will allow us to auto log into the terminal. So you no longer need to provide people with the passwords unless they really, really need them. Second, and most important, it is fully audited. So you can see who did what and when. So if you're in a tech lead type role, imagine a world where your more junior techs can issue really simple information gathering or triage commands without even knowing the device password. Assuming you grant them the permission, but also with the knowledge that they are being audited. So every commands that they issue are going to be audited, and that's an important aspect of this. So we are really excited about this. We got tons of neat ideas for how we're going to improve the troubleshooting experience here, and we'd love your feedback. This is going to be going into beta. Actually, I think when we first wrote the slide, it was supposed to be in the next couple of weeks, but I believe it is going into beta today or tomorrow. I think we have 28 people on the beta list that are going to be included very, very soon. But if you want to be included in the beta, feel free to reach out, and I'll see what strings I can pull.
Yeah. So Pat, it went live today. It's the first beta for remote command that went live today on that widget, and we have 28 tenants in production that are leveraging it. So sign up and enjoy. We're really excited about feedback on this one, to your point.
Yeah, we're really excited. And so this is where things, as I alluded to, kind of wander a little slightly off course from the troubleshooting theme, but you can probably start to imagine where we'd love to take this. So we'd love to extend this capability out to being, running a command on many devices and being able to eventually schedule it. So this will be a great path to being able to do things like password rotations, configuring NetFlow and Syslog, et cetera. And I think one thing I'm not sure, came up on my mind. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but the results of the commands are also exportable into CSV. So you can save them offline. You can take a look at them. You can do all the fun stuff you can do in Excel or comparable. So just going back to our vision for this and being able to extend this past the troubleshooting theme into what we're slowly evolving into is automation. We are very deep into some user experience research and designs for how we want that to look. So please reach out if you'd love to chat more about that. We'd really love to hear really specific use cases and even commands if you have them, so that we can test them against our usability and also when we're doing our implementation testing. Again, lots of exciting potential here, and we're excited to have this very first iteration out in beta today. All right. So the next major theme I want to talk through is what we call extensibility. And this means being able to extend our out-of-box experience to support additional use cases. So that fundamentally starts with identifying, goes into monitoring, backups, visualizations, alerting, et cetera. Our first major milestone that we're working towards is on the monitoring front. And the first step that we'll be taking within that journey is capturing historical data for existing SNMP OID monitors. That is a lot of acronyms, but they make sense. I'm always cognizant when I use that many acronyms right back to back. Fundamentally, what this is going to allow you to do, though, is add custom OID monitoring and gather any metrics available on any device that supports SNMP. We've had this capability in the past that has predominantly been used for alerting purposes, and we've seen customers use this extensively for NASAs, SANs, some server monitoring, industrial IoT, et cetera. But now with the introduction of being able to retain historical data, you can diagnose, you can trend, and you can troubleshoot really easily. This one is legitimately going to be coming into beta in a few weeks. It is not out today, but I think we're hoping for probably just before the holidays. Oh, and Julie, you are on mute.
I'm on mute. It's true. I'd actually really like to talk like a little bit more technical on this one. It's taken a little bit of time for us to get to the ability where we can share with you that we are producing a beta and it's coming very soon. We've had to do some heavy lifting, and there's some really exciting stuff that's happening under the hood of our overall product. This milestone, it took a significant amount of effort, and we've already paid that. We paid that tax in order to establish the platform investments and the architecture that we require in order to now go fast on activities or on additional features and capabilities like this. And so we've paid a big portion of that infrastructure or architectural tax. And I'm certain that you're excited about what's going to come next now that we've unlocked this. And our ability has been unlocked to be able to move faster now on different capabilities like this. You know, since it's based on some of our latest and greatest tech, it means that we're also able to continue data collection while our product is in maintenance window, which previously we hadn't been able to do that. We have a maintenance window that happens every 2 weeks, and we have a number of different activities and plans to get to a no downtime situation. However, until we're a bit further along, we will continue. We'll obviously continue to make investments in our overall architecture and in our platform, and the UI and the alerting pieces will continue to be affected by our short-term maintenance window, but long-term, our intention is to get to, you know, obviously no downtime whatsoever as part of the overall maintenance we need to complete on our product.
Yeah, thanks for those points, Julie. I think you know, there's a couple of, I'm personally really excited about some of those things, particularly the fact that, you know, this is a fairly heavy lift at the beginning, and as we talk about what's next, a lot of the next activities are considerably smaller investments. So excited to start pumping out a lot more value a lot quicker on some of these things. So, you know, following the history, you know, our next couple of big steps that we want to take are really to improve the workflow to set up OID monitors. So this will include the ability to test them before you roll them out to a broad set of devices, but we'll also introduce the ability to parse or transform some of the output that we get from devices. You know, too often we find situations where the vendor returns absolutely incredible information, but it's in a format that just isn't easily monitorable, or in a unit that you just would not expect. So we're also looking to introduce some operations to be able to transform some of the data after we receive it. And lastly, you know, in terms of the next shorter term items, we're looking to enable the ability for people to provide or override where we get some of our asset fields. So this will allow you effectively to teach us where to get some of the important information that we have on devices where we do not yet offer out-of-the-box support. So as Julia, you mentioned earlier, we constantly invest. We have a full-out dedicated team that all they do is add device support for identification, backups, monitoring, etc. But what we're also trying to do here is provide you with the power to add your own if you wanted to as well. So this is going to get this is definitely going to be something that will get easier and easier and easier over time. So we're going to be streamlining the workflow, and that will eventually evolve into full-blown templates and otherwise. All right. And just I guess a little more tactical, but always a hot topic, as I just mentioned, on the device support improvements. So we're planning a couple of I guess more hot topic ones. As I mentioned, we have a lot of different ones in flight, but some of the more notable ones here is improved firepower support, looking to support multiple contexts on ASA devices, and this will also hopefully set us up to be able to do that on other devices in the future that offer comparable situations. We're also migrating to Meraki's newer API. Now that's not super exciting to you, but their API offers some vital information that's preventing us from doing some of your most requested feature requests, like stack support and otherwise. It's not available in the original APIs. So while it's not exciting, not super exciting, this is going to help us unlock the next steps. And you know, as part of what's called the hidden cost of the Meraki API updates, is also we're going to be investing in some technology improvements that is going to make it even easier for our developers to add more cloud API support for different vendors. And we're hoping, you know, Juniper Mist will be the first of many, many dividend payments on this particular investment. Again, more tactical is we're looking at also furthering our ServiceNow integration. So right now we have an alert-centric integration and looking to expand that into some more asset management use cases. And also on the user management side, I think I've already seen a couple of questions. Our intention is absolutely to revamp or significantly upgrade our user management and permissions. That won't be in the immediate term, but we will be making it easier to import users. And we've already made some user experience tweaks that allow you to copy permissions. That's definitely one of the things that we want to do in the future as well. So I guess, that being said, Julie, maybe you want to just chat about some of the other things we're working on here too.
Yeah, I really do. I really do, because Pat's giving me the opportunity to talk about something near and dear to my heart, which is the underlying technology that our product exists on, that functions on. And so earlier I talked a little bit about, we were like biting out of some of the larger technology investments of our platform, the platform that our product runs on, to help support some of our ambitious plans. And so the work that we're doing under the hood, I mean, normally we wouldn't really talk about it, but I love the idea of being able to give you some insight as a spotlight here of some of the things that we're working through, some of the infrastructure and architecture that we're putting in place, so that we can really start to dive into some of your most commonly requested ideas, things like alerting engine updates, as they relate to new device online alert, duplicate IP alert. That's a tricky one, super interesting technical problem to solve. Syslog traffic insight alerts, need to make some more efforts on this front. Downstream suppression. Oh gosh, can you imagine? We're so excited about downstream suppression and being able to create those experiences and those insights, but we need some of this underlying technology in place before we can really dive into some of those things. And then near and dear to all of our hearts, the consolidation work. Consolidation is a really hard technology problem to solve, but we are really far along and are on the cusp of being able to release some really insightful consolidation updates, so that you don't see duplicates on your network when they should be consolidated into a single one. And you're going to see some improved mapping and inventory and new device online alert. That's the focus that we have, and we're creating the architecture underneath in order to really drive that forward, because I think we have a good understanding of where we need to deliver additional capability to help you. And we're really keen on doing that. We're really keen on doing it so much that we're making a lot of investments into our technology to make this overall experience better. And I think that we're probably heading into time where we want to shift to questions here, but I appreciate the opportunity to talk just ever so briefly on the tech. We really are dedicated to creating the user experiences and a product that's easy to use, but also satisfies so much of the need. So it's a productivity multiplier for you. And this is what we are so wildly excited about in engineering, to give you a faster and more robust product. And we're going to continue to work on that. And we're really excited about it. So thanks a lot for being on this journey with us.
Yeah, and I think like a couple of people have raised the question around the idea portal. I think you've already alluded to many things here. And my team obsessively, that's probably the right word here, goes through our idea portal. Yeah. And it's the top, let's call it 5 pages more or less of our ideas are really predicated based off of some of these platform investments. So really excited that we're continuing the investment here, so that we can get to some of the really bigger ideas that everyone has. But that's definitely why we're seeing some of the quicker wins being hit first while we make some of these platform investments.
Yeah. Head over to the Q&A tab there, Pat. I think that there's some really good questions. I see that Charles really early in our talk asked about any roadmap items on adding alerting for new devices discovered, which is actually one of the pieces that we just talked about in the last slide. I'm not allowed to talk about timing because I'm in engineering, and I'm not allowed to quote any time publicly, but Pat, you're allowed to speak to all the things on this one.
Yeah, I think Charles, like to your point, it's absolutely on our radar. And as Julie mentioned, it's predicated based off of some significant alerting platform improvements, but that is one of the major use cases that we're feeding into some of that design. I unfortunately, I don't even think we have a specific timeline we can share at this point, but Node is literally top of the list in terms of use cases that we're architecting a new alerting platform for.
Robinson has the next one, and I'd like to note some hype that was created by Robinson in the chat. Like, this is dope. Was maybe I actually took that comment and shared it with the engineering team that actually worked on the automation piece for the command line capability, and they were very excited to hear that feedback, Robinson. So thank you for that. So any ideas when the top ideas will get addressed, Pat? It feels more like easy wins are getting hit first.
Yeah, and I think we just covered that that topic at depth. So we're hoping to get to some of the other top ideas after we get through some of these platform investments, but trying to interweave ideas as frequently as possible while we do so.
Thank you. Next one's Corey. So going back to just the general chat, Corey, I also can't wait for downstream suppression. Like that moment, right? Like that moment where it's in place. I'm excited for us. I'm excited for you. Also, Corey was asking here, would love to see the permission redesigned to be group role-based, as managing permissions across multiple sites per user is currently painful. Is there anything extra of this on the roadmap? You bet it is. As it relates to the technology roadmap, so Pat maintains the product roadmap and I maintain the technology roadmap of all the cool things that we have to do under the HUD, under the covers, in order to make Pat's vision a reality and your vision a reality. And so just recently, we've been talking about the hierarchy access model and how we need to, we have like 5 key things that are fundamental, and that's one of them, is being able to get our permission model in a much better state than it is today. We anticipate that this item that you're asking about here, Corey, will be something that we will be addressing within the next, Pat, can I say 12 months?
I'd love that to be the case.
Me too. Don't quote me. Please don't quote me. I'm an optimist, so that's why I'm not allowed to quote anything. Yeah. Let's see. Robinson came back with another question. Will we be able to full name? Will be able to full name and create specific text in the enhanced version of customer OID monitors? Pat.
Yeah, so Robinson, I think that question just disappeared on me. Robinson, I think I'd love to understand some of the use cases. I'm leaning towards the answer is yes. I'd just love to hear any specific situations that you have. I think I'll address this and maybe Joshua, who is not Joshua's question as well. Because I think they're potentially somewhat intertwined. As we expand out our OID monitoring, we're going to have to be able to handle, not only things like, changing units of measure and parsing weird data we get from vendors. We're also going to have to do things like handle like query table indexes or indices. So where we go out and do a query to go get a list of interfaces or indexes, and then apply them to a set of monitors. So that's all those types of things are absolutely some of the things we're going to have to do, and we definitely recognize that. And so I'd say that's probably in the short to medium term, not in the short term, but it's probably not too far away though.
Yeah.
I think I got that one. Mike has a question on Raspberry Pi. I'd love to be able to deploy to Raspberry Pi. I think that one specific device we've looked at historically, and some of the mean time to failure metrics weren't I guess where we love them to be, but the broader theme of ARM devices, absolutely would love to do that. We don't have any plans to do so in the short term, but it's definitely on our radar for being able to port our collector over to ARM, and then you can put it on effectively any ARM based device. I don't have any timelines just yet, but it's something we constantly look at.
Something related to that is there's actually a really deep dive that's happening with all of our collector technology right now from a security perspective. We're doing this to make sure that our security profile is as strong as it possibly can be. We know that it's good. We want it to be ironclad wherever possible. But while we're looking at some of the collector properties and some of the architecture of the collector, we know that we're going to have to do more. And there'll be some things that we redevelop as part of our architectural work here for the collector. That Raspberry Pi question is super, super interesting. I love the thinking here. And I know that the tech directors have been talking about, like, in terms of how do we reimagine the collector so that it gives us everything that we have today in a really secure way, but also has more capability to do more. This is one of the problems that we need to solve. It's something that we're going to be discussing in depth in 2022. And so I'm going to take that Raspberry Pi item and just make sure that we include that in the conversation that's being had around these things. Thanks for that suggestion. It's great.
Yeah, so just I guess for the purposes of time, we'll pick out maybe a couple of other ones here. Some questions around device fingerprinting. So, being able to effectively identify devices on a first scan, or effectively even credential-less. So Julie mentioned that we're working on what we call consolidation, which is basically taking all the raw data we get from networks and try to distill it down to what are actual devices. Because devices can be, we can see evidence from devices in many, many different ways that are really incomplete. So that team is working on some significant consolidation algorithm updates. After that, improved device fingerprinting, in many different ways is one of the things we're hoping to have them work on afterwards.
Another vote there for the redesign on permissions. Appreciate the support on that one. We agree. We've got some work to do there for sure.
Matthew has a question around a template style method for deploying custom OIDs. So as I mentioned, the first step is going to be more of an improved workflow. So easily allowing you to roll out individual ones. So the template is absolutely the direction that we're going. Let's see, Robinson had a question around downstream suppression. I think he was just asking, what is it? It's a somewhat descriptive term, but at the same time, it's also confusing. So I think, Robinson, your assumption was right. Effectively, it means that if a parent device or a parent condition fails, that it suppresses the notifications or alerts for any dependent devices or any dependent alerts.
One here from Matthew. Where's the ping latency monitoring on the roadmap? Pretty basic feature. Talk to that one for us there, Pat.
Yeah, so I think we probably have a fairly large list of things we want to do on the monitoring front. We're touching on a couple of ones here, so improving our vCenter monitoring support, ping latency, and a couple other ones. The perspective the story that we told doesn't necessarily lend itself well to answering that question, but the user-defined monitoring team that we have that is introducing the custom OID monitoring history. They are effectively building out a bunch of capabilities for you, but also a lot of capabilities for us to be able to easily add to our existing monitoring with a fraction of the effort that it used to. So we are investing in the user-defined monitoring and that architecture first. And then we plan to, obviously, as we release capabilities to you, we plan on substantially adding new monitoring capabilities using that infrastructure. So that's the story. That's the answer to probably a couple of these different questions. We absolutely recognize that we want to fill these gaps. It's one of those situations where if we invest in this technology now, we will get these and many, many, many other monitoring capabilities for significantly less investment in the future.